Welcome to the WP Builds podcast, bringing you the latest news from the WordPress community. Now, welcome your hosts, David Wormsley and Nathan Wrigley.
Hello there and welcome once again to the WP Builds podcast. You've reached episode number 382, entitled Moss Talks Yoast, Entrepreneurship and SEO Trends. It was published on Thursday the 25th of July, 2024. My name's Nathan Wrigley and we'll get to the chat with Alex in a few short moments, but as always, here's a short bit of housekeeping. If you like what we're doing at WP Builds, head over to wpbuilds.com/subscribe. Over there, you're going to find all of the places that we post things, so it's Twitter and YouTube and so on. Why not subscribe on those channels, but also subscribe to our newsletter. If you do, we'll send you 2 emails a week. One, when we've done the This Week in WordPress show, which is live on a Monday. We'll repackage that as a podcast, but also every Thursday for the regular podcast, what you're listening to now. wpbuilds.com/subscribe. Give us your email and we have a no spam guarantee. The other thing to mention is that if you'd like to get your product or service out in front of a WordPress specific audience, well, guess what? We have that. You can do that by heading to wpbuilds.com/advertise. Check out the options there, and I'm more than willing to have a chat about any of the options that we've got. 3 fine companies that have done just that are GoDaddy Pro, Bluehost, and OmniSend. The WP Builds podcast is brought to you today by GoDaddy Pro. GoDaddy Pro, the home of managed WordPress hosting that includes free domain, SSL, and 24/7 support. Bundle that with The Hub by GoDaddy Pro to unlock more free benefits to manage multiple sites in one place, invoice clients, and get 30% off new purchases. You can find out more at go.me/WP Builds. We're also sponsored by Bluehost. Bluehost, redefine your web hosting experience with Bluehost Cloud. Managed WordPress hosting that comes with lightning-fast websites, 100% network uptime, and 24/7 priority support. With Bluehost Cloud, the possibilities are out of this world. Experience it today at bluehost.com/cloud. And we're also sponsored by OmniSend. OmniSend, do you sell your stuff online? Then meet OmniSend. Yes, that OmniSend, the email and SMS tool that helps you make $73 for every dollar spent. The one that's so good, it's almost boring. Hate the excitement of roller coaster sales? Prefer a steady line going up? Try OmniSend today at omnisend.com. And sincere thanks go out to those 3 companies, that's GoDaddy Pro, Bluehost and OmniSend, for their support of the WP Builds podcast. They really do keep the lights on, and if you head over to their properties, be sure to mention that you heard about them from the WP Builds podcast. Okay, what have we got for you today? Well, I am joined today by Moss. You're going to hear a conversation which spans all sorts of different subjects today. Currently, Moss is working at Yoast. He discusses his multifaceted career from a self-taught PHP developer in 2011 to the Principal SEO at Yoast now. The conversation spans his co-founding of an agency, involvement in the NFT market, and views on emerging digital trends. He also highlights potential practical uses of NFTs beyond speculation, collaboration between marketing and development teams, and advancements at Yoast post-acquisition by Newfold Digital. Key topics include the future of SEO amidst AI and privacy challenges, Google's dominance, the evolution of search engines, and the balancing act of offering premium and free services at Yoast. We certainly do cover a lot of ground, and I hope that you enjoy it. I am joined on the podcast today by Moss. Hello, Alex.
Hello there. How are we doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Alex and I met in Asia, at WordCamp Asia. That's right, isn't it? We hadn't met prior to that.
No, not in real life. Like, we've known of each other's existence in the WordPress community, but and even though we don't live that far away, no, it takes us flying for at least 15 hours.
That's right. You have to go to the other side of the planet to meet each other. Yeah, Alex, you're based out of Manchester. I'm based in Scarborough. In UK terms, that's pretty close. I mean, what are we, like, probably 60 miles or something. But as we were saying, the UK, even though in American terms, getting across the UK is trivial in terms of driving time, it's still big enough that, it's a big ordeal going from where I live to where you live.
We like the moaning, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Everything's hard. Alex, though, is on the podcast today. We're going to talk about him, his past, his relationship with WordPress, the fact that he's been working with Yoast in the more recent past as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Do you want to just give us your little potted bio? Not necessarily revealing everything, because it'd be part of the conversation, I think, to reveal those bits and pieces. But just tell us a little bit about you and your relationship with WordPress, I guess.
Sure. I'm Al. Hello. I am an SEO from background. I started out in SEO, worked for agencies and in-house, but I also knew PHP development, and through that naturally led myself to WordPress as the least worst CMS out there at the time, I think in 2011. So that was my first dabble into WordPress. And since then, continued to work for agencies, and then ended up owning my own agency that did everything organic and paid, an integrated marketing agency, and also did WordPress design and development. And as well as that, in the back, I also developed some plugins and a framework at the time, which is interesting. That I even did that.
You've done a lot, haven't you? That's really amazing. How did you end up getting fascinated by SEO then? Because honestly, if I rewind my life a million times, I'm never going to be an SEO person. It just came out of the woodwork as something that I wanted to do. I was much more interested in, creating the front end of the website and fiddling with graphics and things like that. So how did you get curious about SEO?
I was the IT guy in a company, because if you know how to make a website or build your own computer, you just put in you work in IT. It kind of still happens now to me at the moment. But at the time, I just thought, well, I can build websites and I understand computers. Let's just work in it. And I ended up working in as an admin for some company that does network solutions, actual hardware and Microsoft Exchange. And they had a sister company that was a parental control software app at the time. This was before smartphones. And they had an online marketing position. And I'd never thought about marketing, but the way in which they described it, which was essentially they needed an SEO, an IT person, someone to look after the website. Well, I knew how to do that because in universities, I made my own websites in PHP and HTML. I just knew how to create websites as a teenager. So I just did it to them. And because I knew about websites and I understood how they worked by the time I was 19, quite well, someone just said, well, do you know anything about SEO? And I went, no, this was in the job. And they went, well, we'll pay you to do a one-day course. And they paid me to do a one-day course and say, let's see what you understand about it. And at the end of the day, I got a course by SEO Optimize, who was owned by Kev Gibbons, who now owns Resignal. He's still the guy in SEO, has his own conference and everything. And at the end of the day, I understood everything that they told me in the training session, but very well. Like, didn't have any questions. I was like, this is actually quite interesting, because it's like a cross between marketing. It's not dev, it's not marketing. But you need to know both to understand what you need to do to a website structure, as well as have an impact on users. And that's kind of how I got into it. I just got interested and started reading loads of stuff. And I didn't realize that even before that, I was doing SEO. As a 16-year-old, I had a South Park fan website, right? And I was getting 1,000 hits a day, because that was the only metric, getting 1,000 hits a day at the beginning. And then I realized I could rank for like condoms or fake Nike trainers and Viagra, right? Because this is before Google did anything sophisticated. And I was literally ranking for random, irrelevant things and got loads of hits. And as such, I was being an affiliate on the website that paid me by the impression, not by the click. So I was able to have a network of sites. I built a network of sites all based around this. And it was like an SEO. I didn't even know I was doing it. Didn't even know what SEO was as a term at that point, but I was doing it. And then when I started understanding everything, I realized I've been doing those things. And that's where it kind of ended up. I just went down the tech route.
It kind of feels like you were playing a bit of cat and mouse back in the early days. You were just sort of tinkering with the code and success would result. And so you tinker a bit more and maybe a bit more success, comes as a result. Do you know, that's fascinating the way you described that. I genuinely never thought about it as a kind of confluence of marketing and tech. But that's exactly what it is, isn't it? If you're into marketing and obviously turning a business which is not successful into a business which is successful, there's millions of ways that you can do that. You can paid TV ads, or you can put something on the radio, or you could appear on a podcast, or whatever it may be. But then if you've got the technical background and you understand the things that the search engine is looking for, you can kind of have your cake and eat it. So that's a really interesting way of describing it. Is it still like that? Because it feels like the 16-year-old you could probably get a result by just tinkering, but it feels like the however old you are, it's definitely a much more mature industry now, where I would imagine there's a lot more hard work required to get the same result.
Yeah, there's a lot wider skill set now. So back in the day, it was just SEO, but that was before social was social, right?
Oh, yeah.
I was working in it just as Facebook came. I had Facebook when I was a student, so you could only join as a .ac.uk. And I had a friend who was in Berkeley University at the time, who was one of the first 3 universities to get Facebook. So he was showing it me, and that wasn't anything. And that was part of SEO until it became it had to grow into its own thing. Like, I remember I worked in TV before I got into SEO full time, and I worked in ITV, and I set up the Facebook page for ITV yeah, well, kind of, yeah. And not because no one knew how to do it, it's because no one else had an account where you could do it, because I had this legacy account. And it was very weird how no one knew. So I basically set up social profiles for a TV station. And now there's teams of people that just work on specific shows, and that's how much it's growing. They didn't know. And yes, it is still half marketing, half dev, or a bit of a sway depending on what kind of skills you have. But it's also a struggle, because like I have experienced, sometimes the devs don't consider you a dev, and the marketers don't consider you a marketer.
Oh.
Neither of them want to deal with you because they have a wider agenda of inside marketing, or why would someone in marketing need to deal or know about canonicalization? Why would a developer care about what canonicalization is? The answer is they really should, as an example. But I was working in it where they were like, canonical what? Because it was just introduced. I remember it getting introduced and being in Carcraft, and no one knew what the hell it was. And I was trying to explain what it was, and that it about dupe content and stuff. And it was just going over a dev's head. Marketing were like, this got to do with me. So it's kind of a struggle if you're in-house sometimes. But then it makes you learn of how to deal with both departments. And get a buy-in.
So you've had it from the description that you gave. You've obviously done quite a lot, both in the marketing and in the sort of tech side of things. I think you mentioned that you'd built a plugin and various other things. Just before we hit record, we talked about the fact that this might be quite an interesting thing to talk about. So just lay out the groundwork of what you have done in the past, and it'll give us a much broader idea of the kind of things that you've been into.
Sure. So in the world of WordPress, when I discovered WordPress, it was finally something that could adapt to an SEO wanting to do certain things. So I was working with Joomla and Drupal and a few other CMSs at the time, and none of them were playing ball at all. And whilst WordPress didn't play ball perfectly, if you were good enough, you could make it play ball if you wanted to, as a technical aspect. So I started, that was nice. And knowing PHP and MySQL already, that was great. So I knew how to build a plugin or a theme or change things in a theme. And then I just learned more, and I was like, everything I'm learning is actually really constructive towards what I want to do, scalability or whatever or customization within a website, which I still believe, if you're looking for a website, it's still one of the most customizable CMSs out there, and expandable ones. So I like the future-proofness. I like the open source of everything. So I thought I'd make my own plugins to try and solve a few problems. So the first one was I wanted to build an SEO plugin, but then some guy called Yoast was already way ahead.
Yes.
So, I was like, I'm not dealing with him. He's an authority. he's already way ahead of me.
So
always
you were considering an SEO plugin, a similar. Obviously, you've said that he beat you to the punch there, but a similar time, right? All those years ago. Interesting. Sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah, no. I mean, it was around 2010 or something, and I think he got off. And he was, as an SEO though, he wasn't, I don't know what his name was like back then in the WordPress world, but in the SEO world, he was already established. He was already an authority that had come from good SEO background, and he knew his shit. And all the peers around him had also were very, very high up in the world of SEO. And like, I think he used to work at eBay at some point, or, he's been longtime friends with someone who was at eBay and then worked at Airbnb and is part of this crew who've always been there in Europe doing that thing. So I thought, well, he's got more resource. He's got more developers behind him. I'm just one guy. I'm never going to make the effort because I'm running an agency as well. So I kind of just made small ones that just did a job right. So the first one I made was Facebook comments. And you remember, you can just comment underneath instead of the native WordPress one. Some people didn't want that. They wanted Facebook comments, which was just essentially an iframe embed.
Right. Yeah.
That was it. So I just removed comments and then replaced them with this comment, and that was it. It was so simple, only a few options. And then I made EU cookie law before GDPR existed, and that was just a yes or no. And then if you, or more info on terms, and that's all it did. It didn't do anything with cookies. And those were my main two. I made a few others, but none of them were as successful as those two. They were always free, but then I sold them to two different parties at two different times. I didn't sell Facebook comments to Facebook. It was another
Darn.
It was another company.
Yeah, could have retired.
Exactly. But weirdly enough, after they were purchased, neither of the purchasers did anything.
Oh,
they let them die to the point where I didn't even get removed as the author. And I was getting those deprecation emails, and I was emailing my purchasers going, do you want to can I take it back? Like, do something with it. And they're like, no, we're just going to let it die.
With your name,
right.
with your name in the plugin code still.
Exactly, which is it's a bit unfortunate, but whatever, I took the money, so I can't complain.
But then you also you built an agency up as well, you said.
Yes, I built an agency, which was based on just me knowing WordPress and my way around it. So got people with WordPress sites on board, and, hired a dev and a designer, and just kind of grew it from there. We've always stayed small. And, we haven't had this massive dev team, but like our team have always been really well-oiled machine, very good at process and very good at doing the very simple sites very quickly, but also quite complex stuff. So our backend dev made his own API through Laravel, and then pushed everything through into a WordPress MVP. And it's very, very good. It's like a tier version of Compare the Market. But in that, they're dealing with a database of over 600,000 rows, and the search is like that now.
Wow.
So doing those things are like, they're not like IPO companies, right? But it's nice and interesting to have those very customized projects. So we've been doing them, and during that time, I made my own framework as well. It was called PDIG. For anyone who's old school and may have remembered, but it was a framework that was essentially a vanilla canvas that had Bootstrap. It was, the front end was just Bootstrap, the back end was no blow, everything was SEO friendly or integrated with Yoast, that kind of thing. And I didn't really sell it in the end. I did pitch it to a couple of people, but I wasn't like, I was too engrossed with the agency side, and I should have pushed it more. Could have been elegant. Who knew?
Yeah, elegant as in elegant themes, or elegant as in yeah. Oh, what could have been? What could have been?
But that doesn't matter. But it showed my interest in products, and even though my professional background is mainly from a service side of owning an agency, I've always liked products, which kind of led me towards Yoast.
Did you sound as if you're talking in the present tense about your agency? Is that still going? Are you having that? Yeah. So the work at Yoast is something, you're full-time there, or are you part-time there? Or
I'm full-time there, but on top of being full-time, I also do some work at, outside office hours of some tech stuff. But because my agency is with my wife co-founded it with me.
I see.
And
right.
yeah, and to be fair, she's always been the boss anyway. She was always the boss. I was just some tech guy who just knew some stuff and got involved when I needed to, right? And I'm good at, business development, and I've got that authority and everything. But the day to day, I can do a tech audit at 2 a.m. if I really want to. I don't need to be forward facing anymore. So I just thought, well, if I do it less, let's see what happens to the company. And it felt like they didn't need me. And actually I had a break in the middle to deal with NFT marketing, which is a whole that's another podcast.
Oh, what could possibly go wrong?
that's another podcast. But in short, me and Anna and another couple of people opened an NFT marketing agency. We ended up actually being really successful in the Wild West of the NFT world. Worked with people like Boss Logic, Ja Rule, who else? There's just random stuff, like big brands as well. Life magazine. We worked with loads of random different people, and it was a funny ride. But then the Wild West was stopping. I'm a marketer, not a Web3 guy. I'm more on the marketer. Although I believe in Web3, crypto probably played a part in the downfall of the NFT audience.
Is that whole NFT thing, can we draw a line under that, do you think, realistically speaking, for the majority of us? It's not something, I mean, I remember if we were to go back, I don't know, maybe 3 years or something, if you were to look in any tech publication or listen to any podcast that was even adjacent to technology, the word NFT or the acronym NFT would come out, multiple times, almost in every sentence. And now it's complete, it's just nothing. It's deadly silent. Is that because it's gone away? Does anybody even carry on talking about that anymore?
It was an echo chamber that got out of a chamber for a very short time.
Right.
And unfortunately, the crypto, it was the mix of crypto and NFTs and also the metaverse coming in as a separate thing kind of got all mixed up and tangled, weirdly, I think. And the ecosystem got so excited that everything was going to happen. But I was cynical, again, as a brand marketer who's seen a lot more in the search world. I was thinking about things like Google Glass. I was thinking about how people said that voice search was going to overtake mobile search when Alexa first came out. None of those things happened. No. And I was watching this happen with NFTs. And I'm like, the technology of NFTs won't go away. It will be useful. And in 10 years, I do think it will be used in a more normal way, but it will be disconnected from crypto. Once that happens, that's what people didn't get. And the things of Bored Apes was, it was one big crypto FOMO whirlwind that a larger ecosystem got involved with.
Yeah.
And that's why Justin Bieber spent $1 million on one and sold it for 8,000.
Oh, good grief. It like looking back, it does seem like some sort of pyramid scheme. And also the utility of it wasn't really the point. The point was to get rich off, I don't know, little animated GIFs or something like that you could sell. Whereas it does feel, like you said, the underpinnings, the technology that lies behind it could be really useful in all sorts of ways, but not in ways which are going to make you a millionaire overnight, but just something that may, I don't know, maybe stamp a legal document to prove that it existed at this moment in time, or that yours is the original version or something like that, which, is probably worth pennies, but is actually really useful.
Yeah. I mean, I did a talk on, I think it was AdWorld, about brand marketing and NFTs. And I think people got the wrong idea and they thought of it too much like playing cards and, Pokemon cards, the collectibles and things like that.
Yeah.
It's not about that. It's about proof, authenticity, and brand loyalty, right? So things like I used to collect art. Well, I still collect art, but I collect physical art. Proof of purchase relies on Gmail being up. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's interesting.
Things like that. Yeah. And the blockchain and NFT is the certificate. So what would be great is if I walked into an art gallery, saw something on the wall, and I purchased it with money, but I also got the NFT. My utility is the certificate, and now I've got it coupled with the physical. That also should be dealt with in legal form because it's immutable on the blockchain. And because of that, you can do things like you say, legal documents, leases, the signatures, things like that, transfer of ownership.
That's where it's always felt like,
and that's what's going to stay.
Yeah, that always felt like the most useful case was just proving that something happened at a certain moment. Oh, I don't know, like, for example, that you published a blog post and that it was written with these exact words on this exact date. And that version that you're touting over in the media has been doctored. And I can prove that it's been doctored because I've got the original and I absolutely know that this is the original, that kind of thing. Oh, that's really interesting, though. Sorry, I completely derailed you there, but that was really interesting. The thread that runs through your life, though...
Well, it comes back to WordPress. It comes back to WordPress because what you just said then, there was a plugin for that, I believe, called Web3 Press. They were at WordPress, WordCamp Asia to stall. I'm sure that's what you can buy a post.
Right.
So you get a post that's it gets put on the blockchain as an NFT, which then you can prove what the words were at that point in time. And yeah, that's true. And also for brand loyalty, think of a Tesco club card. You've got a club card. I've got a club card. It's free, but the more I spend in Tesco, the more I'm rewarded, right? I get more off my petrol. I get, 10% off beer because I drink too much beer, that kind of thing. And then that as a digital version of that is, and then I could sell my club card to you if it's actually quite valuable. It has a lot of deals on that loyalty. Things like air miles as an NFT.
Oh,
you can think about it like that.
Yeah.
That's when it gets interesting. And I'm sure. Do you know what? You should get Dave Lockey on here. He'll talk for ages.
I have actually spoken to Dave Lockey on a different podcast I do. I do the WP Tavern podcast, and we had Dave Lockey. He just started at Automatic, so I think he was finding his feet there at that time. But the way you've just described it is really interesting to me. I'm so sorry, dear listener, that we've really gone off on a tangent here, but this is quite fun. I didn't really see it as... I thought more of it as a okay, here's proof of a thing, not really a transferable thing. Just this is mine, there it is. But no, the idea that you could put value into it and then sell it. I guess that's what got out of control, is the whole value thing. Yeah. And so this picture of a monkey went from being a picture of a monkey to being worth $1 million. That's unrealistic, unsustainable pyramid nonsense. Whereas if it was just something in the real world, like a Tesco club card or an air mile scheme, and you could sell the value held in that NFT onwards. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Oh, I like that. That's interesting. Okay, I'm sorry. You're going to
think about it. Now think about it. No. Think about it from a clothing brand. Gucci, which have delved into this before, they could give out 1,000 NFTs, right? And if you owned an NFT, Web3 is the act of logging in. So Web1's username and password. Web2 is social, like signing in through Twitter or X, whatever. And Web3 is signing through your digital wallet, right? And if you have the Gucci NFT, they'll give away 1,000 to 1,000 random people, or however they want to do it. I can get 10% off everything Gucci if I log in through the wallet. So they're gating it. Or I could get a new Gucci product that no one else can get unless I'm logged in with that NFT.
Ah. Okay, so it's like it's a passport as much as anything else.
Yes. Just like you can do that with a username, right? You can say, if you wanted to give me 20% off a product and my username's Alex Moss, then you can do that normally. That's quite easy to do in WordPress, right? But if you do it in Web3, you can connect specific wallets. Maybe you could, if you're, again, Gucci, you can say, 20% off for anyone who owns a Bored Ape. That's the utility of owning the ape, because then you log in with your wallet, it'll have the ape in, it'll have the Gucci thing in. So you'll be able to get that product at 20% less because you've got those two NFTs. And that is where things will go in the longer term. So Gucci and other brands like that did do stuff like that. Lots of brands have
so maybe it's not a stalled enterprise. Maybe that whole pyramid apes, by the way, the idea of finding an ape in my wallet is kind of pretty terrifying. But the idea that it'll be able to be a store of something okay, so you talked about WordPress, and you log in with the username and password, but you're bound within in the confines of WordPress. Mm-hmm. This unshackles you from the WordPressy bit. Your NFT could allow access to all sorts of things all over the internet. It's far less less confined, if you know what I mean. Anyway, I am so sorry. We've totally derailed you there. But fascinating. Maybe this podcast is just going to be about NFTs, but let's just go back to you a little bit. And you were talking before I derailed you about your agencies and the work that you've done with, building up SEO plugins and all that kind of stuff. It strikes me that a lot of the stuff that you've done is kind of working for yourself and figuring out your own path. So why have you finally landed with Yoast as an employee? Is that like atypical for you to be an employee? Is there a reason that you've decided to sort of be less of an entrepreneur, if you like, and more of an employee?
Maybe there's a few things. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I won't describe myself as one, but I guess I am. I am someone who's done stuff by myself. Well, probably not by myself. My wife definitely pushed me to do things and pulled me to do things with her. So she definitely leads in that way. But the other thing was I'd been doing it for 10 years longer. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of pressure. Mm-hmm. The pressure doesn't reduce over time. So it's not like, the good old days where the boss is always playing golf and stuff with one of the big clients. It does work like that, but in large companies, not in a small boutique agency. So I thought, well, I'm kind of done with that. And also client work is different with SEO. Even though they pay you every month, you still have to talk them into the fact that you should be worth them paying you even from like month 2. Like, why is this important? Yeah. You don't say that to an accountant, everything they do, right? But it seems to be something that they do in SEO. I find WordPress build is much, from my experience, much nicer of an experience. What's the scope of work? Let's implement the scope of work. You complete the scope of work and you wave goodbye, and then you get another client to do the same thing.
Right. Yeah.
And then there was the plugin aspect and the WordPress aspect of things. And I like the building element, but I knew I couldn't do it by myself. I knew I'm not clever enough, that there aren't much better devs out there that are much better than me, because I didn't have a formal education in development. I just opened the PHP manual in 2002. It was just one file that I don't know what extension it was, but I had to download some like manual software just to open it. And that's what I used, a notepad. It was before color-coded stuff, the nice things of Sublime and things like that. That didn't exist. There wasn't dark theme. I was one color, black and white, that was it. And so I was way behind. I'm old-fashioned, but I had ideas. And I thought, well, I understand Yoast. I'm in SEO, so I understand why everything is important. I know that inside SEO, I no longer have to talk people into saying that SEO is important because it's the product. So that saved a lot of time and effort, and there my opinions respected a lot more than a client who has their own business and they just think you're just some random consultant. And I thought I think I can do much more on a bigger scale. And if I worked on a product, I think I could do that not only with improving a product to best practice in SEO anyway, but actually helping the product evolve. Because it still can, right? A product can always evolve. And as Yoast goes into its next chapter of its business life, there's different things that will happen in the next few years that will probably not change the product at all, but it will expand the way in which some things are done as our jobs get harder as well.
Yeah, I always found selling the SEO as a service the most difficult thing, because like you say, if you sell them, let's say, a 5-page brochure website, I'll do it in a couple of days and there it is. Boom. You can see it. That was blank and now it's done. Whereas SEO was much more ephemeral. We've got to do this research, which they've got to be a part of, and they probably find it fairly uninteresting because they've got bathrooms to sell, or, they're a lawyer and they've got clients to meet and all of that kind of stuff. And then proving that what you did was actually having an impact in some sort of report where you could categorically say, look, we definitely have had an impact. This was really easy money. It was worth spending the money on. I always found that incredibly difficult. And I never had the time really to pour into it to become an expert. So I was always on the periphery of kind of knowing enough to be dangerous, but not enough to be effective. And it made that sort of thing really hard. So, okay, so you've been at Yoast since when? When did you begin?
August last year. So I think I've been here about 9 months now.
Okay. And what's your job title? What is your role over there?
I am Principal SEO. There's two of us. There's me and there's Carolyn Shelby, who's based in Chicago. As our job, we kind of intertwine between all the different departments, as I was kind of explaining before, your marketing, your development, and the answer to being an SEO inside a company like this is that you are everywhere. Or at least I am. I'm probably weirdly the most uniquely placed person because I'm in product. I definitely have a big input into marketing, into things that leadership do, product development, the looking after the site in general, then being part of the face of the brand as well. So every month I do the SEO update by Yoast with myself and Carolyn do that. So curating that, which we do by ourselves. And of course, we know everything that's going on each month. So there's a lot of things that we do in and out of the business that and integrations, things like that, partnerships and innovation with growth, things to do with AI. So everything, a bit of everything.
That really is a bit of everything, isn't it? That's fascinating. What a nice title, though. You're working for an SEO company. What's your title? Principal SEO. Sounds kind of James Bond. You're at the apex. It's really quite a nice title, that. So, okay, let's get stuck into the sort of the job that you do over at Yoast and all of the different things that are happening there. Now, if you've begun your work in November last year, you therefore have not worked there. Although from something that you said previously, you have worked with Yoast, the person, not the company, before. But you've not worked with the co-founders, Marika and Yoast, the person. You've worked since it was acquired by... Well, do you want to tell us a little bit about who your parent company are and maybe how that's affected things? There's going to be a load of people listening to this who are, Yoast users, Yoast subscribers, and I think they'd be quite interested to know what the state of affairs is with the ownership of that brand.
Yeah, sure. So Yoast and Marika sold the company to Newfold Digital. That was about 3 years ago. I came in after Yoast and Marika had departed, so I don't know the intricacies of what happened in that little window, but by the time I came in, there was quite a bit of a leadership shift. Yoast and Marika had exited, so at the moment there's, I think, one person who was on leadership that's still there now, that's Chaya. And then there's other people who were obviously there during Yoast and Marika being there, but maybe not in part of the leadership team. So there's a few people who do different things. You've got Kimberly, who's the general manager. You've got Chaya. You've got Will, Nico, director of products. Taco is head of community, and you've got Fletcher in legal, and Florrie, who's the director of marketing. So it's quite a mixed people. And in that, when I don't know, the intricacies of the actual acquisition and what was the plan at the very beginning. No. But the growth of Yoast has always been an interest, not just in numbers, because there's a hell of a lot of people on free. There's 13.5 million active 13.5
million.
I know.
Sorry, Carry on. That's just eye-watering.
It's mental. It's mental, but not that they're free users, right? So there's nowhere near as many as that premium users. So, one of Newfold's thing is to get as many people on premium as possible upgraded. That of course is one of the goals. So as we do that, we'll be creating more premium features in the years to come. Of course, we'll be still putting things out in free, but we'll also be developing premium stuff that bit more. We're also in that time expanded into Shopify. So we're not WordPress as a brand anymore. But it's how we're known, right? That it's always been WordPress until a couple of years ago, and it's over 10 years old, this company. So it's only a small portion, but it's something we're growing into.
The Shopify thing, were you saying that's a small portion? So does WordPress still dominate the sort of core focus of Yoast, the business, or is there, I don't know, how is that divided up? Do you have like a Shopify team of people who are just working on Shopify, and then you got the WordPress side of things, or do you all just sort of cross-pollinate? It's all, one big thing?
there's a little cross-pollination because things like outputting SEO best practice, obviously that's got to be in parallel, but the way in which the technical development stack is that there's definitely people who are on Shopify, but the guy who's on Shopify was on WordPress, so understands both, which is very good. But as we'll be expanding a bit more Shopify stuff, there'll be another dedicated Shopify. So they're not the same people. Like there'll be a WordPress dev and there'll be a Shopify dev, for example, just like an agency will be specialized in that one CMS. There's definitely parallels. And when it comes to product features, you've got to think, well, does it work for both? And if it doesn't work for one, what happens? So those are the things we generally do here, but also having continuity between both of them. So a feature that's in WordPress will probably come first and make sure. So not that they're beta testers, but that will be done quickly. It's a bigger team. It's a bigger focus and a bigger customer base. And then look, it's a good testing ground as well, because you can have a feature. It hasn't happened that I know of yet that, is pants for Shopify users, but great for WordPress users. Right. The other way around. So
yeah, I mean, it makes sense to cater for your bigger market more thoroughly, if you know what I mean. And obviously, if you can ship that and it works out, then you can port it over to the other side of things as well. You mentioned AI, right? And I had this intuition, I still do actually to some extent, that AI is going to make SEO, from the creation of the SEO. So if you're inside the Yoast plugin, obviously I've got all these boxes that I need to fill out and text needs to go here and images need to go there. The creation of that with AI is made much more straightforward. You can press a button and the AI can read through your article and summarize it, and then you can go back and inspect it, and all of that's brilliant. But I do wonder about the flip side of that, where the whole landscape is just flooded by AI generated content, which is made for nobody really. It's just an AI spat it out, and somebody has a blog and they thought, well, let's just put 15 of these 10,000 word articles out a day, because we just have to click a button. And I wondered what the impact of AI was on the consumption of search engine results, and therefore the difficulty in rising organically to the top. So I know that's a bit of a broad question, and I've kind of loaded it as if it's a negative thing, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe AI is all positive from the Yoast, the Yoast company side of things. So I'm just going to throw that at you and see what you make of it.
So many contexts. There's so many contexts because, first of all, Google have a fight with AI. That but like a big core business for them is ads, right? Without the ads, Google won't be who they are today and may not be something they are in the future. SERPs, as in a search engine result page, if they're going more AI, they're going more for this SGE experience, which we're going to assume is going to be announced to be going everywhere during Google I/O, which I think is in the next few weeks. We'll have a different experience as a searcher. It's actually going to evolve. It's not the 10 links anymore. That's going to go away and in the years to come. And it's going to give you a different experience. With that, that's a threat for Google because there's less time for ads. But it's also a threat for SEOs because there's less real estate for SEOs. But I was at SMX Munich, an SEO conference a couple of months ago. Marcus Tober, who's the head of partnerships at SEMrush, he said that he made a good point. SEO is actually going to become more valuable, right? Because if you look at the search engine results page over time with SGE, you've got a bit of AI content here, you've got ads here, you've got two SEO blue links here, and then some ads, and then a bit of SGE. That's gone from 10 to 2. So being there is even more valuable. In fact, it's 5 times more valuable. More because of CTR, because you're only dealing with 2. But also, SEO is still important to get into AI, into that SGE, into the actual result. And whilst it's annoying to have result 0, position 0, as in you get the answer without having to actually move forward into a website, that's going to be hard for publishers, but it's going to be an opportunity for truly unique, helpful content to get cited. And from an AI's context of the user, you're thinking just ChatGPT now. That's going to be old hat in a couple of years, right? Or that conversational chatbot kind of behavior that's going to mold things like Perplexity AI, where it's basically like ChatGPT, but not the way in which it gives the results. It gives the results like a search engine, and structured data forms a lot of what it's doing. It's using citations, it's bringing out factual stuff. So it's good for academic research. If you wanted to know about some law, it would give you all of these things rather than a block of text just saying, well, here's what happened in the war and here's like paragraph 57, right? It's not good to ingest. Perplexity is I think an evolved version of ChatGPT. It's quite cool. Check it out. But it gives you citations, which of course need to be cited from somewhere. And that means that you have to have content that's citable, which is where SEO works again. And things like schema and structured data are going to play a big part in how AI understands what content and entities are.
It's kind of interesting because for the longest time, more or less since Google came around as a company, I've gone there with the expectation of seeing not answers, but possible sources of answers. So I want to know what the weather is. So I'll type that into Google and, typically it would give me some links. Obviously now we're more and more straying into here, Google will provide you with the answer. But if I want a plumber in my local area, I know it's not going to list out the plumbers directly for me necessarily. It might give me a bunch of websites. And I know that that's changed over time. But I do wonder if the future of search is more about, here's a question, give me an answer, give me the answer. That I can just react to. And like you said with Perplexity, that's kind of more the way it's going. It's curating a bunch of different things, mashing it all together and citing things. But I presume Google can't be in business if they don't provide value to the people putting the web pages up as well, because everybody will just say, no, robots.txt, go away, Google, because you don't give me anything in return. I don't need to be on your search engine page. There'll be some sort of revolution, if you know what I mean. So I guess the search engines have to work out a way where they surface information, but in a way which just doesn't betray the people creating the content so that they never get visits to their site.
Yeah, it depends on, well, it depends is a great answer for any SEO, but it does depend on the context. Like, yes, that's very true to news outlets. Of course, if I was a news publisher,
yeah, good point.
Of course I would want to be cited. How dare you not? But if I'm like some SEO consultant in Manchester and AI just uses me as a name but doesn't cite me, I don't care, right? Because I got cited and they probably got my name from doing some SEO somewhere to pull out the information to provide that name in the first place. So I would say definitely it will depend on the kind of thing. And I think that's what Google's going to have a really hard time tackling every single scenario, right? Because there's infinite scenarios on what a SERP could be to use. And even use your plumber before and you say, oh, well, at the moment it doesn't give me an SGE, it'll give me that map listing and you do your own research, kind of thing. And I would I would reply by going, you said at the moment, right? In the future, you'll want a plumber in wherever you are, plumber near me, and actually it'll know your preferences. It knows what you like to look for in a plumber. Like I know that I need to see at least 5 good reviews. They don't have to be 5-star, but I'm going to read them. Like that's it. And then over time, AI technology will know and connect with my profile, understand that that's what I like, and just in the future serve that to me. But I did have a conversation with Jono Alderson, who was the person before me. I replaced Jono in Yoast, and I was a guest on Yoast last year, and we were talking about SGE then. And I said, but if I want to research spaghetti bolognese, if I want a spaghetti bolognese recipe, I don't personally think that the answer it gives you is the correct answer, because there is no correct answer. It's interpretive. And and me as a person will always want it different interpretations. So I'm going to want to read about 5, see what the commonality is, see what other people have thought of each one. Should you put carrots in it? That kind of, those random details that you as human still should. Well,
I wonder if in the future also Google will be the destination. And obviously, if you're an SEO company at the minute, Google is the game. It's really the only horse in the race. But my intuition is that a lot of people are, for a variety of reasons, it may be, that you've got concerns about privacy or data collection or whatever, you may have moved to rivals like, I don't know, DuckDuckGo. I ended up spending a little bit of time working. There was a search engine that I paid for a little while called Nevo. It went under not too long after it started. But there's a bunch of other rivals. Brave are about to go into that market. I think they're still in beta or something like that. But also the AIs themselves. Quite a lot of my friends, particularly developers who want to get an answer and a very specific answer to a coding problem, they've just binned Google altogether, and they're now using an AI, whether it's ChatGPT or a bunch of there's loads, isn't there now? There's absolutely loads of them. Whether Google will even be the thing that it is. It's obviously built up this amazing suite of products. It's not just search. I think of documents and music. You can get YouTube and all of that. There's a lot going on with Google, but I do wonder if that search business, which is the core of everything that they do, I do wonder if everybody's going to be going and Googling things in the future.
Yeah, I think they will, personally, because like you say, the suite is so vast and it's intertwined with daily life. They've got Android as an OS, so they'll never let search experience go. Yeah. The search engine will change. It's more about search experience. It's from, I want a pair of shoes, all the way to getting them in your hands. There's so much of a journey in decision making, the search experience, doing your research, and all of those things. It's not just about ranking for the 10 links. Once you get that click, then there's a whole other battle of UX and CRO, conversion rate optimization. Yeah. There's so much of a journey. Even things like entering a phone number right on the last spot can stop a sale from happening. And all of those things will still go back to that part of the experience. But to answer your question, it will change. The search experience will change, but Google will adapt. Things like their relationship with Reddit, I think, is really interesting. People ask, why did they do that? Why Reddit? And my answer is it's perfect, right? If you want an AI to understand the idiosyncrasies and randomness of the human species, Reddit is actually your best place to understand how degenerate it can be, right? So it's weird. It's like, tell me the worst in everyone, right? From the best source possible. And I actually think Reddit is great for that, right? So it's good on learning and machine learning humans, right? It's the best resource. So I do think they're doing something there, but it's all about first-hand experience. They did mention it last year and they've harped on about it. So things like EE80, which I don't know how much the WordPress world knows about that. That's about expertise, experience, authority, and trust. And when you do that, that's connecting all of the dots of who I am as an entity. Alex Moss, who am I? There's a few Alex Mosses out there. There's an Alex Moss, the jeweler, who makes jewelry for like all of the rappers, like Drake and Tyler, the creator. And there's another random Alex Moss who keeps on like booking storage under my email address. I don't know why, but I need to understand who's me, and that authority will have weight on websites. And as soon as that happens, that's a benefit that will also go back into AI and the way in which we interact people to people.
One of the things that I find really interesting is Google's foray to become like from end to end. So a good example was I was searching for a flight the other day, and in my previous, if I were to go back 5 years ago, I would look for a flight and I would expect Google to give me a bunch of websites where I could go and explore the timetables. And of course now Google's just sucking up all that data. There's flights.google.com where they'll show you a price chart of, which flights are cheap at which days. And if you adjust it by a few hours, you might be able to get something a little bit cheaper. And then the link that you click after you've gone through, and you're still on Google, you click the link and you are at the buy button at the website's checkout for the airline in question. So Google have done all the hard work consuming the timetable. They found you the best fare. They haven't done all the seats and everything, but you skip all of that nonsense on the flight site, and you just get to the buy now bit, and you got to fill in your name and blah blah blah. But I kind of see that that's a real opportunity for Google. Imagine that you're searching for, like you said, jewelry or something like that. You could search for it all online and you basically end up at the cart, and Google pass all that information over to the vendor. And in that way, they maintain their relevance. They're not, there's no links. There's no list of links. It's just, you're searching for products, and I would imagine that a lot of that would be baked into Android as well. So I share your optimism. I think Google have got a bunch of incredibly smart engineers, and it won't be just this one-size-fits-all, fairly boring to look at search page. It'll be a whole hodgepodge of different things, some of which are things that you can see, you can just time save by going through Google because they got the chops to do it. It's interesting. Yeah. I think probably at 52 minutes, Alex, we've probably where does the time go? We've probably said what we need to say. I did actually have a few more questions about the Yoast side of things, but I think at 52 minutes we should probably save it for part 2 of the Alex Moss experience. So before we knock it on the head, that's a UK expression. Before we knock it on the head, is there anything you want to just throw in before we press stop?
No, actually.
Great.
I'm enjoying all the new WordPress stuff that's going on. No, we need to just crack on with the next 20 years, to be fair. I'm excited for the next 20 years. I want to stay above 40% of the web, right?
I think the prospects for WordPress are incredibly bright at the moment. I know that a lot of people are sort of talking about the fact that this 43% has plateaued a little bit, but I have every reason to believe that it's probably going to go up. There's a lot of nice stuff like concurrent editing coming inside of WordPress, and I think the future's bright. I really do. Okay, if that's the case and you have nothing else to add, well, I'm sure you do have things to add, but I've cut you off. We'll end it there. But Alex, just tell us, where can we find you online? Where do you hang out? What are your social networks or your email address or whatever you want to surrender?
I'm mainly on X if you want to communicate with me, which is twitter.com, not x.com, /Alex Moss, whenever they deal with that migration, which is something we could chat about on the next one.
That's right, yeah, we'll do it again.
And how that
we'll do it again. You should, by the way, sell that Twitter handle to the guy that sells all the bling jewelry. You could make a fortune.
He doesn't need it. His entity SEO is done. I think if you just search for Alex, he will come up before me. He doesn't need me.
Yeah. Well, Alex, an absolute pleasure. Love chatting to you, and no doubt we'll do it again soon. Take it easy. Thanks for chatting to me today. Well, I hope that you enjoyed that. Very nice chatting to Alex Moss today. If you've got any comments on that, if you've got any thoughts or opinions, head over to wpbuilds.com, search for episode number 382, and use the fine WordPress commenting system that we've got over there. The WP Builds podcast is brought to you today by GoDaddy Pro. GoDaddy Pro, the home of managed WordPress hosting that includes free domain, SSL, and 24/7 support. Bundle that with The Hub by GoDaddy Pro to unlock more free benefits to manage multiple sites in one place, invoice clients, and get 30% off new purchases. You can find out more at go.me/WP Builds. We're also sponsored by Bluehost. Bluehost, redefine your web hosting experience with Bluehost Cloud. Managed WordPress hosting that comes with lightning-fast websites, 100% network uptime, and 24/7 priority support. With Bluehost Cloud, the possibilities are out of this world. Experience it today at bluehost.com/cloud. And we're also sponsored by OmniSend. OmniSend, do you sell your stuff online? Then meet OmniSend. Yes, that OmniSend, the email and SMS tool that helps you make $73 for every dollar spent. The one that's so good, it's almost boring. Hate the excitement of roller coaster sales? Prefer a steady line going up? Try OmniSend today at omnisend.com. And sincere thanks go out to those three companies, that's GoDaddy Pro, Bluehost, and OmniSend, for their support of the WP Builds podcast. They really do keep the lights on, and if you head over to their properties, be sure to mention that you heard about them from the WP Builds podcast. Okay, that truly is all I've got time for. Just a quick reminder, wpbuilds.com/live. You'll be able to use that URL on Monday at 2 p.m. UK time, because of course it's the This Week in WordPress show. We're joined every week by three panelists, and we try to make it as entertaining as possible. Loads of people drop in and give comments, and we really appreciate that. Once more, wpbuilds.com/live, 2 p.m. UK time on Monday, and we'll be back for a podcast episode next Thursday. So all that remains for me to say is that I hope that you stay safe. I'm going to fade in some dreadful, cheesy music and say bye-bye for now.